Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks and Futures and Forex Market Preview, domestic and international economic data roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 7th of March, 2021, ending Friday, the 21st or the 12th. Hope you had a good trading week last week. It was a good week for us. Here's a look at this is the dollar index. So, came back up. It's testing the lows from back in September, and it's been very boring for the year. I mean, you're talking about 5 point range on the dollar index for 9 months, 10 months, and it's just not exciting. And we're now testing resistance. So I wouldn't say this is a key point that you want to get involved in anything. But generally speaking, at least we bounced a little bit the last week or two, and we had a couple winners, but the ranges have been bad, and we're still stuck in this horrible Forex range. Here's the look at the euro dollar, the inverse of the dollar index mostly, so there's nothing new to talk about there. Here's a look at the pound dollar, and as you can see, the pound at least came back a bit. It has not been stuck where the euro dollar and the dollar were. Here's the Aussie dollar, came back a bit. Euro yen is very unexciting. The pound yen didn't do anything this week for 4 days at least. Pound Swiss is what it is. We got a month until we hit the Easter holiday around the world and Good Friday and everything, so there's just not a lot going on. Let's take a look at the intraday action. So we're going to go to the 30-minute candles. Here's the euro dollar for the week. So, you're talking about, 200 pips for the week or whatever, but most of it was all one day, which was the Thursday and Friday drop or whatever. So it wasn't very interesting. The pound dollar high to low for the week is a little better. I mean, we had, let's say it's still about 200. It's not very interesting. It's just not been that interesting in Forex. So I don't want to get all focused on Forex, because it's not there right now. We're just doing what we do, and we'll call it when there's something there, and we won't call it when there isn't. And that's how we live and die in Tradesight. Here's the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart of the broad market and futures form. So we bounced again. I mean, we're right near the highs all over again. We're within 100 points of the highs on the ES, and market's still holding up very well. Obviously, passing something here in the House and the Senate that could help out a lot of people and get people back to work. And if you can sit around and talk about how you just want the rich people to have the money, or you want to talk about whether or not you need the people at the bottom to have the money and how that affects the markets. But at some point in time, this looks a little bit better for getting the money to the people at the bottom. 20 million people who've been out of work for almost a year. It's just not pretty. So that's probably positive. But again, the market's just holding up, and there's a lot of money. Look, any way you look at it, when we print money, a lot of it ends up back in the stock market. So that's positive. Here's a look at crude oil, up $1.65. This is the thing that's bothering everybody, right? Because as the economy starts to pick up, as the economy starts to gain some traction, as there's supply and demand, more importantly, demand for oil, it starts to take off again. Now, it's not that we're not producing enough oil. It's not that we don't want to get off of oil. I mean, anybody with a brain wants to get off of oil. But right now, where we're at is the economy is heating up. Obviously, when it went down to 20s or whatever, that was kind of crazy. That's not the way oil should be. So, a fair price for oil is probably 50, 60 bucks. We're looking at $67 right now. A little breakout. Do we need to ramp up? A lot of this is OPEC, right? They're not producing as much as they should, and that's out of our control. But it definitely suggests that the economy is heating up. That leads to oil demand going up, and if OPEC's not producing, I mean, we are, but if OPEC's not producing, then the prices go up, and that's what you're seeing at the gas pump and everything else. So it's fine. It's actually a positive sign for the economy that this is happening. All right, let's look at gold, up $8, but off of the lows, so gold's going nowhere. This is your inflation gauge, right? If there's bad inflation, gold should go up. It's not going up, so this is going to be really interesting. The S&P cash gained 73.47 on Friday. So again, we're within 100 points of the highs on the S&P. No big deal. NASDAQ 100 up 204 points. But the techs, obviously the techs got out ahead of themselves. Tesla and a lot of these stocks way overvalued. Maybe they're starting to come in. Maybe we're going to get back to just some. I mean, the soft landing version of this is that you just get back to some normal valuations in these stocks, and that means they have to come back in. So that's fine. I mean, obviously the worst version of this is that the market comes back in hard, and we get a panic situation, but. We'll see. I'm telling you right now that the market's overvalued. I don't know that it has to fall apart right now the way it is, because we're printing money and we're doing a lot of things. So We could hold up, but we'll see what happens. The stocks up 89 points. Nice bounce off of that. Look at that. The 13 sell signal 2 weeks ago, right down to that static trend line, the red line. That's the goal of the 13 sell signal. And then we bounced off of it. So that's a perfect move on the stocks. We love that. Biotechs never got 13, but they have come back. The biotechs have come back a bit. But again, remember, the biotechs got a lot of publicity for a while because everybody's looking for COVID vaccinations and whatever. And now that most of that's handled, I don't know what else there is right now that's new in the biotech world. Russell 2000 up 45. It puts us near the highs. The VIX down 3.91. Puts us back at 24.66. So it's been kind of back and forth. It was in the low 20s just a week or two ago off that red static trend line that we've never broken properly. And back to 32 or so after that. So we'll see what happens. The trend closes at 1.03, puts the 10-day moving average at 0.92. Count backwards 10 days. There's a big number up over 220. That's going to keep that moving average up. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, until that big number comes off, it's not going to give us a chance to take that 10-day moving average under 0.85. NASDAQ volume was 7.7 billion shares. On Friday, that was a big lift from Thursday and Friday were a big lift from where we'd been at, back down to the 5 billion share range. But again, remember, 3 billion shares is kind of like we'd be fine with that in the markets. We're just not seeing the action. I mean, it was a good week. It was a good 2 weeks for us from a trading perspective, but we're just not seeing the action. Advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ plus 1689, so more stuff, sorry, plus 1531, so more stocks up than down on the NASDAQ, plus 1762 on the New York. Google gains $63.14. Puts it near all-time highs once again. Apple up $1.29. Not near all-time highs, but still holding up fairly well. Netflix up $5.10. Doesn't really matter. Again, this is inside the candle from the 4th of July, essentially. Amazon up $22.89. No one cares. Tesla down $23.49. This one's slipping back. Look, at the end of the day, Tesla's probably overvalued, but there's nothing wrong with the company, so don't panic, right? It's not like a big deal. The stock probably deserves to be back at like $300-400. We'll see what happens, but that's not the end of the world if it does. Facebook up $6.64 on Friday. That doesn't even show as a blip. Puts you still inside that the opening August candle. Zoom down $5.66. Swept the lows of the year. We made a little money there on Friday. Goldman Sachs down $1.92, trying to roll over from the highs. Tesla, TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, down 27 cents off the lows. So the bonds are near lows, and it is what it is. The Dow was up 572 points. So again, the market continues to hold up fairly well here. Bitcoin up at 1,570 points today. 51,125. It's pretty near the highs, and put call ratio at 0.738. All right, in terms of intra-week action, let's go to 10-minute charts on the ES so we can see it, and this is the whole week. So small gap up on Monday, headed higher. That was the high of the week. Closed not the highs. Tuesday flat opening, closed slightly negative. Wednesday a little small gap down. And went lower a little bit, not a big deal. Thursday, flat opening. There weren't really any big gaps this week. Right? Flat opening, didn't do much, closed lower later in the day. Friday, small gap up, filled quickly. So Thursday was the low and Monday was the high, and then Friday we came back, and guess what? With all that, we closed basically right where we started the week. So wasn't really eventful. It was a good week for us from a trading perspective, and there's nothing to complain about from that perspective. In terms of economic data coming out this week, Sunday, current account out of Japan, economy watchers sentiment out of Japan on Monday, leading indicators out of Japan, Swiss unemployment rate, German industrial production, it's fine, Centex investor confidence, final wholesale inventories out of the U.S., manufacturing sales out of New Zealand, household spending here in Japan, final GDP price index out of Japan, nothing really there. So you go to Tuesday, now you've got what? Preliminary machine tool orders out of Japan, French final private payrolls, German trade balance, Italian industrial production, revised GDP out of Europe, NFIB small business index out of the US, Westpac consumer sentiment out of Australia, China's CPI and PPI All right, we head into Wednesday. French industrial production. CPI here in the U.S., that's one of our big three, so we'll be half size ahead of that for Forex trading. Canada's got their rate announcement from the Bank of Canada. Crude oil inventories here in the U.S., and then they've got Canada's press conference after that. 10-year bond auction, federal budget balance. New Zealand in the afternoon here has the FPI. Japan has PPI. So not a lot there. Thursday, China has M2 money supply and new loans. Monetary policy statement out of the Bank of Europe, right? The ECB. So they're like their Fed, the broad European Fed. JOLTS job openings, natty gas here in the U.S. 30-year bond auction. Business manufacturing index out of New Zealand. Same with Japan. Foreign direct investment out of China. And then going into Friday, we've got German final CPI, construction output, GDP out of the UK, goods trade balance, index of services, industrial production, and manufacturing production out of the UK, French final CPI, Italian quarterly unemployment rate, consumer inflation expectations, industrial production out of Europe. We've got the GDP estimate out of the UK, unemployment rate and employment change numbers out of Canada, along with their capacity utilization and wholesale inventories. Here in the US, PPI, CB leading index, and then preliminary University of Michigan sentiment numbers here in the US. So, most of the data for us that matters is back on Wednesday with the CPI numbers, and then, of course, the Bank of Canada's rate announcement, which won't be a big deal. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple of weeks and help you make money. Have a great trading week.